The music pulsed like a heartbeat, vibrating through the packed Miami nightclub, where sweat and desire mingled in the air. Michael stood frozen at the edge of the dance floor, his heart hammering as he watched his best friend, Ethan, pull a stranger into a slow, electric dance. In that moment, under the kaleidoscope of neon lights, Michael realized he wasn't just jealous, he was unraveling. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Michael had spent years perfecting the art of keeping his feelings for Ethan locked away, a secret buried beneath their decade-long friendship. They'd grown up together in the humid sprawl of South Florida, two kids who'd traded Pokemon cards in middle school and snuck beers on the beach in high school. Ethan was the golden boy, charismatic, athletic, with a smile that could charm anyone. Michael, quieter but no less striking, was the one who balanced Ethan's chaos with steady loyalty. They were inseparable, or so Michael thought, until tonight, when Ethan's eyes lit up for someone else. The stranger, introduced earlier as Lucas, was a vision. Tall, with sun-kissed skin and blonde hair that caught the club's lights like a halo, he moved with a confidence that made Michael's stomach twist. Lucas was a bartender at this upscale rooftop club, the Azure, where Ethan had insisted they go to shake things up. Michael had agreed, expecting a night of their usual banter over overpriced cocktails. Instead, he was watching Ethan and Lucas laugh too closely, their hands brushing as they shared a drink, oblivious to the world around them. Michael took a swig of his beer, the bitter taste grounding him as he leaned against the bar. He was 25, with sharp cheekbones and piercing blue eyes that turned heads, but tonight he felt invisible. The club's energy was intoxicating, bodies swaying, laughter spilling over the pulsing beat, but Michael couldn't shake the ache in his chest. He'd always known Ethan was out of reach, straight as an arrow, or so he'd thought. But the way Ethan looked at Lucas, with a spark Michael had never seen before, cracked something open inside him. "Yo, Mike." Ethan's voice cut through the noise as he waved Michael over, his grin wide and unguarded. Lucas stood beside him, one hand casually resting on Ethan's shoulder. "Come dance with us, man. Lucas says he's got moves." Michael forced a smile, his heart sinking. "I'm good here," he called back, lifting his beer as an excuse. Ethan shrugged, unbothered, and turned back to Lucas, their heads tilting closer as they laughed over something Michael couldn't hear. The sight burned. Michael had spent years convincing himself his feelings for Ethan were just a phase, a fleeting crush he'd outgrow. But now, watching Ethan's hand linger on Lucas's arm, he knew it was more than that. He was in love, deeply, painfully, irrevocably. The night blurred on, a whirlwind of music and tequila shots. Ethan and Lucas grew bolder, their touches less subtle, their laughter louder. Michael tried to lose himself in the crowd, dancing with a few strangers, but his eyes kept drifting back to them. By midnight, Ethan was slurring, his arms slung around Lucas's shoulders as they stumbled toward the rooftop terrace. Michael followed, telling himself it was to keep an eye on his drunk friend, but the truth was heavier. He couldn't look away. The terrace was quieter, the ocean breeze cutting through the humid night. Miami's skyline glittered below, a mosaic of lights reflecting off the water. Ethan and Lucas leaned against the railing, their silhouettes close, almost merging. Michael hung back, his hands stuffed in his pockets, feeling like an intruder in his own life. "Dude, you okay?" Ethan's voice startled him. He'd turned, his hazel eyes catching the moonlight, concern flickering across his face. Lucas glanced over too, his expression unreadable but kind. "Yeah, just taking it all in," Michael lied, gesturing vaguely at the view. Ethan studied him for a moment, then broke into a grin. "You're too serious, man. Come on, live a little." He grabbed Michael's wrist, pulling him toward Lucas. "This guy's cool. You'll like him." Michael's pulse spiked interrupted as Lucas handed him a drink, their fingers brushing. The contact sent a jolt through him, and he quickly pulled away, muttering an excuse about needing air. But there was no escaping the truth. As he watched Ethan and Lucas fall back into their easy rhythm, laughing under the stars, Michael knew he was losing something he'd never truly had. The night spiraled further. Ethan, drunk and carefree, suggested they head to Lucas's place nearby, a sleek apartment overlooking the beach. Michael wanted to say no, to walk away and save himself the pain, but he couldn't. He followed them, caught in the gravity of Ethan's orbit, always trailing just behind. Lucas's apartment was all modern lines and glass, with a view that made Michael's modest studio feel like a closet. They sprawled on the couch, passing a bottle of whiskey, the conversation loose and warm. Michael sat on the edge, nursing his drink, trying to blend into the background. But Lucas, perceptive in a way that unnerved him, kept pulling him into the conversation, asking about his job as a graphic designer, his life in Miami. Michael answered politely, but his mind was elsewhere, tangled in the way Ethan's knee pressed against Lucas's. As the night wore on, Ethan's head lolled onto Lucas's shoulder, his eyes half closed. "You're a good guy, Lucas," he mumbled, his voice thick with liquor. Lucas laughed softly, his hand resting on Ethan's thigh, and Michael felt the air leave the room. "I should go," Michael said abruptly, standing. His voice was tighter than he intended. Ethan frowned, sitting up. "What? It's late, man. Crash here." "I'm fine," Michael snapped, grabbing his jacket. Lucas's eyes followed him, sharp and knowing, but he said nothing. Michael didn't look back as he left, the door clicking shut behind him like a final note. The walk home was a blur, the humid night pressing against his skin. He didn't sleep. Instead, he sat on his balcony, staring at the city lights, replaying every moment of the night. Ethan's smile, Lucas's touch, the way they fit together so effortlessly. Michael had spent years hiding his heart, but tonight it had spilled open, raw and undeniable. He was in love with his best friend, and for the first time, he feared Ethan might be slipping away. The morning sun burned through Michael's curtains, sharp and unforgiving. He hadn't slept, his mind caught in a loop of Ethan's laughter, Lucas's easy charm, and the way they'd looked at each other. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, Ethan's name lighting up the screen. "Hey, you good? You bailed last night," the text read. Michael stared at it, his thumb hovering over the keyboard, but no words came. What could he say? That he'd fled because watching his best friend fall for someone else felt like a knife to the chest? He tossed the phone aside and dragged himself to the shower, hoping the hot water would wash away the ache. It didn't. By noon, he was at a cafe in South Beach, sketching aimlessly on his tablet, when Ethan walked in. He was alone, dressed in a faded t-shirt and sunglasses perched on his head, looking like he'd just rolled out of bed. Michael's heart lurched, but he kept his eyes on his screen, feigning focus. "Yo, you ghosted me," Ethan said, sliding into the chair across from him. His tone was light, but his eyes searched Michael's face. "What's up with you?" Michael shrugged, his stylus tapping the tablet. "Just tired. Long night." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Bullshit. You were fine until we got to Lucas's place. Did I do something?" The question hung between them, heavy and raw. Michael wanted to laugh it off, to lie like he always had, but the words caught in his throat. "It's nothing, man. Just wasn't feeling it." Ethan's brow furrowed. "You sure? You've been off lately. Like, distant." Michael's chest tightened. Ethan wasn't wrong. For months, Michael had been pulling back, guarding himself against the growing weight of his feelings. But last night had shattered his defenses. "I'm fine," he said, the lie tasting bitter. "Just work stress." Ethan didn't look convinced, but he let it drop, ordering a coffee and launching into a story about Lucas's bartending skills. Michael nodded along, his smile tight, every mention of Lucas like salt in a wound. When Ethan left to meet a client, Michael stayed, staring at his untouched sketch, the lines blurring as his thoughts spiraled. That evening, Michael's phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lucas. "Hey, you left kinda suddenly last night. Want to grab a drink and talk?" The message was polite, casual, but it set Michael's nerves on edge. Why was Lucas reaching out? Was this about Ethan? Against his better judgment, he agreed to meet at a quiet bar near the beach. Lucas was already there when Michael arrived, leaning against the bar in a fitted navy shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. His smile was warm, disarming, and Michael hated how it made his pulse race. They grabbed a booth in the corner, the hum of the bar fading as Lucas leaned in, his green eyes steady. "I noticed you seemed off last night," Lucas said, cutting straight to the point. "Thought I'd check in. Ethan's worried about you." Michael's jaw clenched. "He doesn't need to be. I'm fine." Lucas raised an eyebrow, sipping his beer. "You don't seem fine. Look, I don't know you well, but I'm good at reading people. Something's eating at you." The directness threw Michael off. He wasn't used to being seen, Not like this. It's not your business, he said, sharper than he meant. Lucas didn't flinch. Fair enough. But Ethan's my friend now, and you're his best friend. So it kind of feels like my business. Michael's grip tightened on his glass. What's your deal with him anyway? You just met, and you're already, he trailed off, unable to say it. Lucas's expression softened. Ethan's great. He's fun, real, doesn't pretend to be something he's not. We're just seeing where it goes. The words hit like a punch. Michael stared at the table, his mind screaming to change the subject, but his heart wouldn't let him. He's straight, you know. Or at least, he was. Lucas's smile was small, knowing. Yeah, he mentioned that. Said he's figuring things out. People change, Michael. Sometimes they surprise you. Michael's throat burned. He wanted to hate Lucas, to paint him as the villain stealing Ethan away, but Lucas was too damn genuine. They talked for an hour, the conversation shifting to lighter things. Music, the beach, Lucas's life as a bartender. Michael found himself laughing, relaxing, despite the storm in his chest. Lucas had a way of listening, really listening, that made Michael feel exposed in a way he wasn't used to. When they parted ways, Lucas clapped a hand on his shoulder. You're a good guy, Michael. Ethan's lucky to have you. Don't shut him out, okay? Michael nodded, his throat tight, and watched Lucas walk away, his silhouette fading into the neon-lit street. Alone again, Michael's thoughts churned. Ethan was changing, opening up to something new with Lucas, and Michael was stuck, tethered to a love he'd never confessed. The weight of it pressed down on him, heavier than ever, as he realized he might be losing his chance forever. Michael's apartment felt emptier than usual, the silence amplifying his thoughts. He'd ignored Ethan's texts all day, unable to face the inevitable questions. But avoidance only worked for so long in a friendship like theirs. Ethan showed up unannounced that evening, banging on the door with a six-pack in hand. Open up, Mike. I know you're in there, he called, his voice muffled but firm. Michael sighed, letting him in, bracing for a confrontation. Ethan dropped onto the couch, cracking open a beer and sliding one to Michael. All right, enough. You've been dodging me for days. What's going on? Michael's fingers tightened around the bottle. Nothing's going on. Just busy. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You're a shitty liar. Always have been. Did I piss you off at the club or something? The concern in Ethan's voice broke something in Michael. He wanted to scream the truth, to let it all spill out, but the words felt like glass in his throat. It's not you, he managed. It's me. I'm just dealing with some stuff. Ethan leaned forward, his gaze intense. Then talk to me, man. We don't do this silent treatment crap. You're my brother. The word brother stung. Michael forced a smile, shaking his head. It's not a big deal. I'll get over it. Ethan didn't push, but the tension lingered. They drank in silence for a while, the familiar ease of their friendship strained. When Ethan finally left, promising to drag Michael out for wings the next day, Michael felt the walls closing in. He couldn't keep this up, pretending, hiding, watching Ethan drift toward Lucas. The next night, Michael found himself at the Azure again, roped into another night out by Ethan's insistence. Lucas was behind the bar, his smile bright as he poured their drinks. The club was alive, the energy infectious, but Michael felt like he was drowning. Ethan and Lucas were magnetic together, their chemistry undeniable, and Michael was the odd man out, sipping his drink in the shadows. As the night wore on, Ethan pulled Michael onto the dance floor, his grin infectious. Come on, loosen up, he shouted over the music. Michael tried, moving to the beat, but his eyes kept drifting to Lucas, who was watching them from the bar with a curious expression. For a moment, their gazes locked, and Lucas's smile felt like a question Michael wasn't ready to answer. Later, on the terrace, Ethan's arm brushed against Michael's as they leaned against the railing. The ocean stretched out before them, dark and endless. You'd tell me if something was really wrong, right? Ethan asked, his voice soft. Michael's heart pounded. Yeah, he lied, staring at the horizon. I would. But he didn't. Instead, he let Ethan pull him into a hug, the kind they'd shared 100 times, but this time it felt like a goodbye. Lucas joined them, his presence warm and steady, and Michael felt the ground shift beneath him. They were becoming something, and he was on the outside, his love for Ethan a secret he wasn't sure he could keep much longer. The night ended with the three of them sprawled on Lucas's couch again, the whiskey flowing freely. Ethan's head rested on Lucas's shoulder, his laughter soft and content. Michael watched them, his heart a battlefield of longing and resignation. He excused himself early, claiming a headache, but as he walked home, the truth settled in. He couldn't keep running from this. He had to face it, or it would destroy him. Michael spent the next week avoiding Ethan's calls and texts, drowning in his work. The sketches on his tablet were lifeless, his focus shot. He couldn't escape the truth any longer. He loved Ethan, and it was tearing him apart. On Monday, he met Lucas for coffee, hoping to clear the air. Lucas was already there, his green eyes bright with concern. "You've been quiet lately," Lucas said, stirring his drink. "Ethan's been talking about you nonstop. He's worried." Michael's stomach churned. "I'm fine," he said, his voice clipped. "Just needed some space." Lucas leaned forward, his tone gentle but direct. "Michael, you're not fine. I see the way you look at him. You're in love with Ethan, aren't you?" The words hit like a freight train. Michael froze, his coffee growing cold. "What are you talking about?" Lucas's expression softened. "I'm not blind, man. I've seen it before. Guys like you, carrying a torch for their best friend. It's written all over your face." Michael's jaw tightened, his heart racing. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I do," Lucas said quietly. "And I get it. Ethan's special, but you're killing yourself keeping it inside." Michael stood, his chair scraping the floor. "I don't need this from you." He stormed out, his pulse pounding, the truth exposed like a raw nerve. Lucas knew. How long had he known? Did Ethan know, too? That night, alone in his apartment, Michael sat on his balcony, staring at the city lights, his mind a mess. He couldn't keep pretending. Lucas's words had ripped the bandage off his heart, and the wound was bleeding. He loved Ethan, had for years, and the realization that Ethan might be falling for Lucas made it impossible to stay silent. The next day, Ethan showed up at Michael's place, his face tight with worry. "Mike, we need to talk," he said, stepping inside. "You've been dodging me for days. What's going on?" Michael's chest ached. He couldn't lie anymore. "Ethan," he started, his voice shaking. "I need to tell you something." Ethan's eyes widened, his body tensing. "Okay, what's up?" Michael took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "I'm in love with you. I have been for a long time. Watching you with Lucas, it's killing me." The silence was deafening. Ethan's face paled, his hazel eyes searching Michael's. "Mike, I had no idea. Why didn't you say anything?" "I couldn't," Michael whispered. "You were always out of reach. And now Lucas." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room. "This is a lot, man. I mean, I love you, you're my best friend, but I'm figuring myself out right now. Lucas and I, it's new, it's confusing, but it's real." Michael nodded, his throat burning. "I know. I had to say it. I couldn't keep it in anymore." Ethan stepped closer, his hand on Michael's shoulder. "You're not losing me, Mike. You're my brother. We'll figure this out." But as Ethan pulled him into a hug, Michael felt the weight of his confession settle in. The truth was out, and there was no going back. The confession hung between them like a storm cloud. Ethan didn't pull away, but his silence spoke volumes. Michael's heart pounded as he waited, the air thick with tension. "Mike," Ethan finally said, his voice soft, "I don't know what to say. I care about you, man, but I'm not there. Not like that." Michael nodded, his chest tight. "I know. I just needed you to know. For me." Ethan's hand squeezed his shoulder. "You're not going to lose me. We're family, but I need time to process this." Michael forced a smile, his eyes burning. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." The next week was a blur. Michael threw himself into work, sketching designs late into the night, avoiding Ethan's calls. Lucas reached out, too, his texts kind but firm, urging Michael to talk. One evening, Lucas showed up at his door, his expression serious. "We need to clear this up," Lucas said, stepping inside. "Ethan's a mess. He's scared of hurting you." Michael's jaw clenched. "He's not the one hurting me. I did this to myself." Lucas sat beside him, his voice steady. "You're hurting him, too, by pulling away. He loves you, Michael, even if it's not the way you want. Don't push him out." Michael's throat tightened. "I'm trying to protect myself. Watching you two together, it's hard." Lucas's eyes softened. "I get it. But shutting him out isn't fair to either of you. You're stronger than this." Michael stared at the floor, Lucas's words sinking in. He was right. Michael had been running, hiding, letting his pain build a wall between him and Ethan. It wasn't fair. But facing Ethan now, after everything, felt impossible. That weekend, Ethan invited him to a barbecue at Lucas's place. Michael almost said no, but Lucas's words echoed in his mind. He went, his heart heavy, and found Ethan and Lucas flipping burgers on the grill, their easy chemistry a quiet ache in his chest. Ethan pulled him aside, his eyes earnest. "We're good, right?" Ethan asked, his voice tight. "I can't lose you, Mike." Michael swallowed hard. "We're good," he said, the words heavy but true. "I just need time." Ethan hugged him, fierce and quick. "You got it, but don't disappear on me." Michael nodded, his heart raw but resolute. He'd laid his truth bare, and now he had to find a way to live with it, to rebuild the friendship he cherished without letting his love destroy it. Weeks passed, and Michael found a fragile balance. He and Ethan met for coffee, their conversations careful but warm, rebuilding the trust they'd always shared. Lucas was there, too, a steady presence, his kindness making it harder to resent him. One night, at the Azure, Michael watched Ethan and Lucas dance, their joy undeniable. The pain was still there, but softer now, tempered by time. He joined them on the terrace, the ocean breeze cool against his skin. "You're back," Ethan grinned, pulling him into a hug. "Missed you, man." Lucas clapped his shoulder, his smile genuine. "Good to see you, Michael. You're looking better." Michael laughed, a small, real sound. "Getting there." They sat together, the three of them, sharing beers and stories under the stars. Michael's heart still ached, but it was lighter now. He'd loved Ethan for years, but love wasn't ownership. It was letting go, letting Ethan be happy, even if it wasn't with him. As the night wound down, Ethan pulled him aside. "You're my best friend, Mike. That's never gonna change." Michael's eyes stung, but he smiled. "Same here, man." They hugged, the embrace tight and true. Michael had fallen the hardest, but he was learning to stand again. His love for Ethan would always be a part of him, but so was their friendship, and that was worth fighting for. With time, he'd find his way, not to the life he'd dreamed of, but to one where love meant letting Ethan shine, even in someone else's arms.